Okay, so when I say the Buddha is just a catch-all phrase for what in the English language we refer to as Buddha, right? Buddha is the Buddha, the spiritual teacher, but it is also an archetype of a spirituality, of going within.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Thrive State Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. V, triple board certified MD and performance longevity expert. And on today's podcast, I give you a very special treat. I'm actually going to share an excerpt of something I've been working on for the past year. It has been a passion project, a project of love called the Thrive State Summit. It's going to be an online and virtual event where I host 50 of the world's thought leaders and experts in the field of mental health, of how to actually get the tools to beat chronic stress and burnout. Really, it's going to be a resource that's going to be so valuable for you. You can register for free at thrivestatesummit.com. Now, if you are new to the podcast, I want to welcome you in. This podcast is really about elevating our life. And so I get the opportunity to bring in many of my friends who are thought leaders and world experts in the fields of mental health, resilience, longevity, relationships, business, where we come up with the tools and tactics for you to take your life to the next level. And for those who this podcast has already helped, if you are returning, thank you so much for allowing this podcast to grow. It is through your engagement, through you guys subscribing that really helps us. So if you haven't already, please hit subscribe. Please share this podcast with your friends and family members. And whenever you get a chance, please leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you haven't already, consider picking up a copy of my book, Thrive State, at thrivestatebook.com. It's really the pillars, the blueprint that you need to actually control your energetic state, because it is our energetic state, the frequency by which we live life through, actually becomes a signal to our DNA that actually controls our physiology, that gives us access to optimal health, longevity, and peak performance. Now, as I said before, this is an excerpt from the Thrive State Summit. It is certainly a passion project. I spent the past year interviewing 50 of the world's top leaders in mental health, emotional wellness, to really give you the tools. And on today's podcast, we'll just give you a small sample of one interview. And so if you want to listen to the entire interview, along with the entire interviews of 50 of the world expert in mental health, chronic stress, and burnout, please register now at thrivestatesummit.com. You'll particularly want to listen and register for the summit if you are feeling the weight of chronic stress or burnout, or maybe you're grappling with persistent symptoms of anxiety or depression, or maybe even physical symptoms of fatigue, brain fog, weight gain. They're all energetically connected. If we're not looking out for our mental health, our social health, our emotional health, our spiritual health, and physical health go out the window as well. So the Thrive State Summit is something that's so near and dear to my heart. I did it because I've had so many friends in the past couple of years really suffer from the consequences of not looking after our mental health, all the way down to suicide. And so I wanted to make sure that the world has resources when dealing with mental health issues, because not only can we avoid physical, emotional, mental symptoms, but we could also end up being the very best versions of ourselves, because trust me, the ones that love you, your family, your businesses, everyone around you is just that much better when you can bring the full you to them. So I hope you enjoy this conversation, which is the excerpt, and please register at thrivestatesummit.com. It is completely free. You're going to get so much value from it, but please enjoy this little excerpt from the Thrive State Summit. I hope to see you in the summit itself. Please enjoy this episode of the Thrive State Podcast. Hello and welcome back to another session of the Thrive State Summit. With me today is Vishen Lakhiani. He's the founder of Mindvalley. He's a friend, a mentor, a brother, and had a really significant role in my own transformation. Mindvalley is now home to hundreds of world-class teachers and a thriving global community. And surprisingly, Vishen here took Mindvalley from $0 to exceeding over 100 million in revenue with no bank loans, VC funding, or any type of support. In his words, trusting his intuition, dreaming big dreams, and meditating every single day. He's listed at the Watkins list of the top 100 most influential spiritual teachers. His first book, The Code of the Extraordinary Mind, is now translated into 25 languages and was a catalyst for my own personal growth. So please check it out. He believes in work-life integration, which is reflective of his company culture created in Mindvalley. His goal is for Mindvalley to reach 100 national schooling systems in every company in the Fortune 500 over the next decade. Vishen, thank you for your time.
Kien Vuu, thank you for inviting me into this interview. I have so much respect for who you are, your humble beginnings, what you went through as an individual, as a refugee in the United States, and the man that you have become.
Well, I could certainly say that a lot of Mindvalley's teachings, a lot of the teachers you've exposed me to, allow me to do the deep personal work to, reverse disease in myself and live in a state that actually provides longevity, peak performance, and all of that. Now, we really want to dive into your teachings today. In your book, The Buddha and the Badass, you discuss that the average person spends 70% of their waking hours at work. Many of the audience members here can attest to that. And the average person is miserable for most of those hours. So it's a modern myth that hard work and hustle are the path to success. So how does stress impact our overall well-being and our performance and potential? And how does one start to begin to reconcile bringing the Buddha and the badass together?
Okay, well, first, there were many sub-questions within that question. Let's start with the last one that you asked, okay? The Buddha and the badass. Let's talk about that. I believe there are two archetypes within our nature when it comes to work. There's the archetype of the badass, which is the change maker, the innovator, the entrepreneur. Great entrepreneurs, great creative people are constantly immersed in the art of creation. And sometimes to create, you have to disrupt, you have to destroy, you have to innovate, you have to break things. And so that is the badass. The badass is that essence within many of us that seeks to improve upon the human condition.
Yeah.
But there's a flip side to that badassery. And that badassery is that you can get so obsessed into the business that you become a hamster on a hamster wheel, working nonstop hours, tinkering, pushing, tweaking. And I was there at one point. The first 5 years of building up my company, at the end of those 5 years, I was broker. I was more broke than if I had never, ever bothered to start a company. Why? Because I was all badass, but I had forgotten the Buddha. I'd forgotten that essence within us that creates a balance, and we'll come to that balance in a moment, and that balance actually can accelerate your results when done right. Okay, so let's go back to badassery. Badassery is good. You want to push, you want to build, you want to innovate. But badassery, without its equivalent component, which is Buddhahood, can break you. It leads to high cortisol levels. It leads to stress. It tells your body that you are ready to die. It tricks your primitive body into this fight or flight response, as if you're being chased by a lion, except it's not a lion that's chasing you. It's that sales deadline, or it's that investor call you have to prepare for, or it's the fact that you can't fulfill the orders which are coming in. It's a mythical, imaginary lion. But if you don't understand and bring in the Buddha, that lion devours you. And this is why so many entrepreneurs break themselves. So many people burn out. So many people may build a great business, but in the process, they ruin their relationships. They ruin their health. They may put on weight. They may end up broke, depressed, sleepless nights. And I see this over and over and over and over and over again with CEOs and entrepreneurs who come to me, right? Now, the good news is the world is changing. We're beginning to understand that if you truly want to be a great entrepreneur, it's not just about being a badass. It's about the twin pillar, which is the Buddha. So let's talk about that. Now, to understand the Buddha, I want to quote you a poem from Rumi. Rumi wrote this in the 13th century. So Rumi, and I guess it's apt to bring in Rumi because like you, Rumi was a refugee. He was fleeing a war in Afghanistan. He was a Persian poet fleeing a war as a refugee, and he was one of the greatest playwrights of his time. And today he's the most popular poet in America. Now, Rumi wrote this 700 years ago. When I chase after what I desire, my life is a furnace of stress and anxiety. But if I sit in my own place of patience, what I want comes to me without any pain. From this, I understand that what I want wants me too, is seeking me, is looking for me. There's a great secret in this for anyone who cares to listen. What Rumi was saying is, and people interpret this in different ways. Some people say Rumi was talking about sitting down, going deep into meditation, tapping into his intuition so he could move closer to what he wants. Some people say he was talking about manifesting. Some people say Rumi was talking about this philosophical idea called living in a state of surrender. You know what I think Rumi was talking about?
Tell me.
So Rumi was talking about this idea that your goals are not your goals. What if your goals, the business that you want to build, the life that you want to create, what if your goals were a higher power inspiring you to do something that was aligned with your soul's mission? I remember interviewing Matthew McConaughey, the great actor, and Matthew shared this really fascinating story about how one day when he was in college, he sat in the top bunk of his dorm room, and he started to make a list of 10 goals that he wanted to hit in the next 20 years. And right at the top of the list, he wrote this down: win an Academy Award for Best Actor. He didn't know how he was going to get there. He was a frickin' college kid in Texas.
I hope you're enjoying the podcast thus far. Now, I wanted to give you a really neat resource that I've been working on for the past year. Are you living with chronic stress, burnout, or the nagging symptoms of anxiety and depression? Do you find yourself battling fatigue or brain fog or feeling like you're not performing at your best? Well, what I've been working on all of this year is made especially for you. It is an online virtual event called the Thrive State Summit. You can register now for free at thrivestatesummit.com. But what it is this: you get to connect with and learn from 50 world-renowned thought leaders, experts, and some of your favorite celebrities. We've got people like Bruce Lipton, Vishen Lakhiani, Dave Asprey, Dr. Josh Axe, all united with a shared mission to tackle the mental health crisis that is impacting each and every one of us. Now, the Thrive State Summit isn't just another event. It is really my hope that it becomes a catalyst for change, particularly in this fast-paced world. And so what can you expect? You could expect to take home life-changing takeaways from all our experts, activation sessions to be able to bring you into states of calm and relaxation, really all the resources for you to become the best version of yourself. And finally, proceeds from the Thrive State Summit will go to 4 mental health nonprofits, including Rare Impact Fund, the Trevor Project, Good Days, Genius Recoveries. So please, if you invest in yourself, and please share this resource with your friends and family members. It's something I poured my entire heart into this past year, and I know it's going to help so many people. So register now at thrivestatesummit.com.
But in, I believe it was 2009, less than 20 years, Matthew McConaughey was on the podium receiving his Oscar for Best Actor. And I asked him, why do you think that happened? Did you manifest that? He goes, no, the target attracts the arrow. Let me repeat that. He said the target attracts the arrow. He didn't know how to become the best actor. He didn't know how to win that Oscar. Heck, he had no idea if he even stood a chance of becoming an actor. But the target attracts the arrow. And what that means is that very often our goals pull us towards them in a way almost as if the goal is speaking to us. It's directing us. It's setting us on the right path, one step after the other. But to be able to listen, we have to stop being a perpetual badass and go into Buddha mode. And Buddha mode means tapping into your intuition. It means sitting still and meditating. It could even mean, and this is good news for some of you, take that vacation you've been putting off just to sit by the sea and do nothing. And in that nothingness, the new idea emerge, that new insight falls on your lap. The next great step in the right direction comes to you without any pain, because it is seeking you just like you are seeking it.
That is so beautiful. How would you then say, should somebody stop being that badass altogether, or is there something gained during that process? Is there a spiritual gym that you're going through badassery to the Buddha-ness?
It's a dance, right? It's a perpetual dance. And that dance means that you go into a mode called acceleration, where your foot is on the gas pedal and you're accelerating. But every now and then, you take that car and you park on the side of the road, and because you see a beautiful stream or you see a beautiful mountain, you stop the car, you step out of the car, and you just take a walk and enjoy the beauty. That part is called navigation. Navigation is when you take your foot off the gas pedal and you simply pause and think, where do I want to go next?
Yeah.
So I live my life by balancing acceleration and navigation. I will literally go super deep into work for 1 month, like crazy deep. I'm in that month right now. It's almost 8 p.m. and I've been on calls nonstop and I'm loving it, right? But then 2 weeks from now, I'm going to go into navigation. I'm going to go meet one of my clients in Portugal, and we're going to brainstorm a new product. But we're going to do it with a lot of great food, with incredible scenery, maybe sightseeing a bit in Portugal. That's navigation. So you alter, you go into acceleration, and you go into navigation, and you go back into acceleration. That is the dance of the Buddha, which is navigation, and the badass, which is acceleration.
Yeah. There's one tool that you've come up with that is, I think, so instrumental in my own life, and, a necessary, important tool in becoming the Buddha. It's really the 6-phase meditation. And you've also written the book recently. It's a technique I'd use to create inner peace and more success in my life. And so can you talk us through, help us dissect through how you created this and why this technique works so well and is so powerful for bringing more into your life?
Beautiful question. Okay, so when I say the Buddha is just a catch-all phrase for what in the English language we refer to as Buddha, right? Buddha is the Buddha, the spiritual teacher, but it is also an archetype of a spirituality, of going within. So it's easy to say spirituality. It's a catch-all phrase. People toss it around. But what does it actually mean? Now, the 6-phase meditation is a scientific approach to tapping into that spirituality. And it's 6 steps that you do in the morning. And this is what you've been doing, Kien. So the first step is compassion. You practice a compassion technique, which is actually proven to increase your sense of connectedness, the feelings of connectedness with life, with human beings, with plants, with nature, with animals. And it has its roots in Zen, loving kindness meditation.
Yeah.
When you're feeling truly connected, you feel more peaceful, you feel more at ease. And then you go to phase 2, which is gratitude. Gratitude is the human characteristic with the highest correlation to overall well-being, as per scientists. The human characteristic with the highest correlation to overall well-being. And so you express gratitude for 3 things in your personal life, 3 things in your business life, and 3 things about yourself. And then you go to phase 3, forgiveness. This is really interesting. Forgiveness is one of the most powerful acts we can practice. And studies show that forgiveness does so many things for you. It improves your brain cognition. It makes you sleep better. It reduces stress and anxiety. It has even been shown to improve back pain. It improves your vertical jump. It improves your endurance. We don't even really understand how. So you practice forgiveness. And this is where you remove all negativity, all charges. That business partner who maybe took some money from you and never paid back, that person who broke your heart 10 years ago. Over time, you remove all charges towards everyone, and you are truly at peace. Now, science shows that forgiveness actually puts your brain frequencies into the correct frequencies that emulate the brains of monks who have spent decades in meditation. Forgiveness, right? Okay, so that's phase 3. Now, all of these three phases, compassion, gratitude, forgiveness, deal with present level emotion. That is the Buddha, present level emotion. And when you are able to master these present level emotions, there's actually a correlation with greater productivity at work. So this isn't just fluff. This isn't just a poem by Rumi. Sean Aker, the Harvard psychologist, studied this. He wrote a book about it called The Happiness Advantage. Okay, so when you're feeling compassionate, when you're feeling grateful, when you're feeling forgiveness, happiness levels go up. And what Sean Aker found is that this improves all of these different aspects of work. Salespeople who are optimistic are 55% better at their work. Students do better in exams. Doctors are 19% better at diagnoses. So there's this terminology right now in HR called PQ, positivity quotient. And it says that your positivity is the number one thing that correlates with the performance of your team. The team's positivity is the number one thing that determines the success of a team. And positivity doesn't mean that you're always like rah-rah and happy. No, it means that even when shit goes wrong, you understand, you take the learnings from it, you move on, and you keep moving forward with that feeling of positivity, connectedness to the rest of your team, gratitude, and forgiveness.
I hope you're enjoying the podcast so far. If you are, I just wanted to let you know, join our community. There's so many free resources and a great community of people that desire health, happiness, human potential, to have more in their life, more health, more energy. And when you have those two things together, you could create more happiness, more abundance, whether it be financial, romantic, all these things in your life. And if you're just starting out, you don't know where to go, just sign up for thrivestatestarter.com, because in there you're going to get a bundle of information that includes a longevity ebook, a longevity and performance resource guide, lecture notes that come from my keynotes at Google, at Fortune 500 companies, all the insights in that keynote in lecture slide form given to you. And then finally, breathwork. I share 3 powerful breathwork exercises to access calm, which really gives you clarity and peace during the day, to access energy if you need to wake up and really motivate yourself, and finally a breathwork routine that you could do every single morning so that you could be very intentional with how you create that day. You can find all this stuff delivered free to your inbox at thrivestatestarter.com. And our community is growing. If you want to be a part of a community of people that desire the Thrive State, that are really in Thrive State themselves, and help other people along with that, you could be a part of the community. You can get group coaching from me. We do breathwork sessions, meditation sessions, and you also get to drop in and participate in podcasts in the future. You could find more about the community at mythrivestate.com. That's mythrivestate.com. So check out those resources. You're not going to be disappointed, and please enjoy the remainder of this podcast.
Okay, so that is the Buddha. Now let's talk about the badass. So we covered phase 1, 2, and 3. Now in the 6-phase meditation, when you come to phase 4, you're moving to badass mode. Many meditation practices ask you to be passive. 6-phase, no. We go into active badass mode. So what happens is in phase 4, you're seeing a vision of that reality that you want to create, and you're moving towards that vision. This is often called creative visualization. Phase 5, you now tell yourself, okay, that's the vision I want long term. What am I going to do today to get there? And phase 5, you see yourself doing one little thing today to get you there. And then phase 6 is a prayer, right? Whether you're a pantheist and you believe that you're simply connected to the universe, or you're a religious person, you believe in God. In phase 6, you simply state a prayer and you ask for a blessing so that you have the right resources to keep you on track and support you as you move towards this vision. So that's the 6-phase meditation. Phase 1, compassion. Phase 2, gratitude. Phase 3, forgiveness. That's the Buddha. Phase 4 is your future, 3 years out. Phase 5 is your perfect day today. Phase 6, the blessing. And when you put that together, you have a powerful spiritual approach to bring in both of these pillars of being an effective human being.
I can say I've practiced the 6-phase meditation regularly, and I've shown up on the biohacking stages on basically all national platforms in the States, 2 reality shows coming out, 2 documentaries coming out, all this because I've kind of practiced this technique. What I can say from my research is we're beginning to understand the default mode network, which is a primitive part of our brain and nervous system that gets programmed very, very on as we're kids. And when that thing is on unconsciously, we sometimes get into those stress states of being that badass that raises cortisol. What we can say is when we could focus on the first 3 steps you talk about, we're noticing a few things, that the default mode network actually turns off, that the emotion of gratitude actually decreases inflammatory markers like TNF-alpha, IL-1, IL-6. And it also brings our brain states, like you said, out of the high beta state into the alpha state, bringing us more creativity into our work. So I could say scientifically, the 6-day meditation has a lot of medical merits behind it.
That is amazing. I'm glad.
It is super amazing. I'd love to share more of the research with you in the future. But one of the things that's also very transformative in my life is being a Mindvalley member. And, you have a library of thought leaders teaching the world's best techniques in sleep, in longevity, in nutrition, relationships. I mean, it goes on. I wonder, and you get this all when you become a Mindvalley member. And so I suggest people, go ahead and dive in. But I wonder from you, if people are just starting out, what are the best sort of tips and tricks, maybe the most transformative things that people can do that you've learned from these thought leaders that people can implement today to feel better?
Well, one of the most powerful things one can do is the 6-phase meditation, right? But it's not even the whole meditation. Look, the meditation takes 17 minutes. If you find that too difficult, the practice of compassion, the practice of gratitude, those two have a profound impact on your life. And if you had to choose one, do gratitude. As I said, science says that gratitude is the human characteristic with the singular highest correlation to well-being.
That's amazing. And in my research on gratitude, it also, when you're in the state of gratitude, you're basically almost telling your body, and you're giving energetic signals to every single cell that you are safe and you are loved and you are connected. And what you're doing is you're turning off that part of your consciousness that thinks that you are not safe. And so therefore, biologically, it shifts things so much, putting you more into states of flow and states of receiving. So that's pretty amazing. Do you have other sort of mindset shifts or beliefs that you think would be useful for people as they're, right now, it's a very unusual state. People are feeling the mental health struggles of, their businesses being decimated by the pandemic. People are feeling now that AI has come in and potentially taking their jobs and things like that. So there's a lot of mental health type of issues out there. What would you say would be some additional tools or mindset shifts that people can adopt to start the process of stepping out of this mental health struggle that they might have?
So meditation is definitely one of the best tools, right? However, it's really important to understand that a lot of the stuff that's going on in your brain is not just meditation. Some of it in today's world could also really be a biochemistry imbalance. For example, we know that serotonin, which is the happiness chemical, is produced in our gut. If you're eating the wrong food or you have a gut imbalance, your serotonin production could be lower. And therefore, you could feel sad or you could feel gloomy. And you can solve that by just getting a simple, cheap 5-HTP supplement. 5-HTP is serotonin in a pill. And so I've actually been shocked by how effective supplementation is. I take around 14 different supplements every single day. But these supplements actually affect your stress resilience. They affect your moods. They elevate levels of happiness. And many people are not aware of these. We talk a lot about exercise. Then we started talking a lot about meditation. Then we started talking a lot about community. Supplements are another one of those keys. You got to have all 4. Yes, get your body moving. Get out in the morning. Get that morning sunlight. Take a walk. Number 2, meditate. Absolutely. Everyone has been talking about the benefits of meditation. Community. Host dinners. Spend time with friends. Spend time with your loved ones. But the 4th one, know that the food that we are eating today is nowhere as nutritious as the food 100 years ago. As recently as 1932, the U.S. Senate issued a warning on the declining nutritional content of America's food. And think about it. Emotions are created by our biochemistry, right? Yeah. And if we don't have the right fuel for the right biochemical reactions in our brain, that's going to affect our moods. So I find that many people are shocked, absolutely shocked, when they suddenly start supplementing and they're getting their vitamin D, they're getting their magnesium to help them sleep at night, they are getting GABA, they're getting 5-HTP, they are taking things like alpha-GPC to help them focus. I've seen people who have years of brain fog, all of a sudden the brain fog disappears. People who are moody and gloomy and think that they are in a depression, all of a sudden that fades. But again, that's just 4. There's a 5th one, which is really worth looking at. Unfortunately, it's illegal in many states and countries, and that is MAPS therapy as well as psilocybin. Psilocybin, for example, has been proven to be almost 300% more effective at lifting depression than pharmaceuticals. But it's still illegal. I predict, though, it's going to be legalized in 2025. The U.S. government just allowed research in psilocybin as a form of therapy. So you may want to wait on that, but know that that's coming out. And there are other things as well that are worth looking at. But there's all of these different factors that can instantly change the way you feel. And when you change the way you feel, it shows up in everything else you do.
Vishen, this was amazing. What you said about psychedelics, I believe it's really in the future of longevity and performance medicine as well, because what we do know from a lot of psychedelics is it's doing the work of turning off or calming down that default mode network, all these old patterns that are potentially driving us into stress mode, quieting that down so that we can start to rewire ourselves. I hope you enjoy that excerpt from the Thrive State Summit on this week's episode of the Thrive State Podcast. If you want to listen to the full interview along with the full interviews of the 50 thought leaders, experts, and celebrities in the mental health, emotional wellness world, please register for free at thrivestatesummit.com. Again, if you find this podcast useful, please subscribe, please share this episode with your friends and family members, and do us a favor by leaving us 5-star wherever podcasts are heard. It will help the show grow. And finally, if you haven't already, get the free resources. I have a bundle of longevity as well as peak performance resources to give you, which includes ebooks, lecture notes, breathwork exercises. You can get them all at thrivestatestarter.com. Thank you again. Thanks for being a part of our community and our mission to really elevate human potential. And remember always, you are your best medicine.